Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Inside. Today we're looking at a Diskwars army set. For this army is the Uthuk Y'llan. I'm sure I said that wrong. This game came out in the 90s. Let's see if I can get a specific date here. This game came out in 1999, and it's basically a disc-based game. You don't need miniatures to play a miniatures game. The concept was really cool, very innovative. It was put out by Fantasy Flight, and if you're not familiar with their work, I highly recommend getting familiar with some of their games. They make some really good games to this day, and this was one of my first introductions to some of their stuff. And I liked this game. I thought it was a lot of fun. Me and my friends would play quite a bit. But let's see what's in here. I haven't seen the inside of one of these since about 2001. I know they did do a not a Lord of the Rings, a Legend of the Five Rings version of this, and more recently, much more recently, a Warhammer version. Let's see if I can get this cellophane off. It is now not a collectible game, but like a static box set for Warhammer. If you get a chance, I'd recommend checking that out. It looked really fun. I'll probably do an unboxing of that at some point. But in the meantime, let's look at the vintage original. This is not the revised edition. This is the original. Alright. So as you can see, these are just cards that you pop the tokens out, just like you would with Pogs or those stupid star discs that we looked at. And they have 3 sets of numbers, and your movement and everything you need to know about your army is on the token. And it's the same thing on both sides. So we've got different cards here. Here's our instruction book. Well, it's more of an instruction map, which, as you all know, I absolutely hate these sort of things. And it is fairly large. So it folds out, but it does, because they are large discs, it does show the layouts for where things need to go and how the scenario plays out. There's a master spell book over here. So there's magic, there's army guys, there's moving around, there's player areas, an explanation of what everything on the card means, army cost of the disc. So for example, let's take this one, we've got a Wind Rider. So that's the cost is 9. The unit description and special abilities, movement value, the attack value, the defense value, and the toughness value. So that'll tell you kind of what you're getting. There's a centaur. That's pretty cool. The art's pretty solid. The instruction book is really handy, but it is thick paper, thicker than most of these sort of things. And I think that's a sign of the times, honestly. The newer stuff tends to be really cheap, but the stuff from the 90s was a lot sturdier and on thicker paper. And since this box did cost $10, which was quite a bit of money for a new game, they had to kind of up the game a little. And these are fairly thick cards. I don't know if you could see that on the screen, but the tokens are pretty thick. You gotta be a little careful when you're punching them out sometimes, because they can catch on the perforation and tear them slightly. But yeah, there's a lot of these things. There's some warriors. You got your bowmen. You got guys in gliders, and then there's your home base thingy, which would be let's see if they have it labeled here. No, they do not. But it's flat number 30 of 70, if that means anything to you. They did do reinforcement packs too, which were really cool. So you could bring in like outside monsters and stuff like that. So yeah, and as I recall, the Legend of the Five Rings set was actually kind of compatible with this, because the rules were basically the same. So yeah, there's all the little tokens you need for arrows and bolts and magic and whatnots. And let me pop a couple of these out, give you kind of an idea. Yeah, they're just glorified pogs, but they are pretty nice quality. And what would happen is you could get in close combat by overlapping or coming up close. I'm going to try and do a playthrough of this at some point because I remember really liking this game, and I think that it would probably inspire some people to try a new game. And you can pick these boxes up fairly cheap these days. I think they go online for about $6 or $7 a box, and you can find the revised edition or this edition for about that. I've had these in storage for a long time, so I haven't purchased any in a while, but there were several armies, and they had the expansions with like the wastelands and stuff like that, the reinforcement packs, and then they did the Legend of the Five Rings, and now they're doing Warhammer. But I think this is a fun game, and it's pretty straightforward and simple. And the fact that everything you need to know is basically broken down into a handful of stats, and you get all the discs you need. They're easy to store. You don't need a big fishing or tackle box or toolbox full of miniatures. It's minimal investment to play a fun game. You can even buy a couple of these boxes for fairly cheap and mix and match. Determine the points value, play higher points, and you can play it on a kitchen table. So, which is what I have it all sitting on now. And they're not going to make a big mess. You're not going to step on it and put a hole in your foot. You know, at best you might lose one off the side of the table and have to go get it before like a cat gets to it or small child or something. But yeah, I liked this game when it came out, and I kind of want to play it right now. It's real straightforward and fairly simple game as I recall, but it gives enough depth of a miniatures game without having to have miniatures. So if you want to try something new, pick up a couple starters like this. This army set is looks pretty cool. There's several other ones as I recall. There's some knights, and I don't remember what the other one is. But we're going to open a couple of these to kind of get an idea. But this one's got winged riders, a centaur. What else we got here? We got Grove into the Deep. He's a unique. Yeah, all these guys are unique characters, so you can buy them. They're pretty expensive, but they're pretty good. They all have different abilities. Here we've got some will look like berserkers, a giant worm monster, orcs, royal bowmen. The bowmen were really good as I recall. But yeah, so if you want extras of these, you just buy another one of these boxes and mix and match your army. Otherwise, you got like your standard troop guys here, and some archers. Pretty straightforward fantasy stuff. The art's good. The quality of the tokens is really good. Better than Pogs. Definitely better than those stupid star discs. Oh boy, do I regret opening those. But yeah, it's a good time. It's a lot of fun to play. I highly recommend it. But that's what's inside the army set for the Uthuk Y'llan. You get the rule book and all you see here. Good stuff. I recommend checking it out if you get a chance. You might have a lot of fun. That'll do it for this episode. As always, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time on What's Inside.